Welcome to another edition of the Sports Web, live from the Tan Talk Sports Studios, live on Bucs Report. I'm your host, Peter Blake. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall to 3-7 as they lose to the New York Giants 38-35. We'll go through some things and then we'll take some questions. But overall, it's basically the same song and dance at this point with this team. They continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Whether it's bad quarterback play, whether it's bad defense, whether it's just bad coaching at this point. I told you last week the season was over, and most likely it's definitely over now with them falling to the New York Giants. And just to give you an idea about how bad this team is, you have Eli Manning. Look at his numbers. 17 for 18. 231 yards. His first 11 passes he completed versus this Buccaneer defense. And look, you can talk about how the Giants have struggled this year offensively with their line. You can talk about how it looks like Eli Manning is on his last legs. But versus a Buccaneer defense, when a bad offense faces this defense, they basically are the cure-all for anybody. I mean, they really are at this point. So it's actually a joke. It really is. And it needs to get improved. Hopefully it does get improved. And again, like I said, we're going to take some questions. I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on WTAN, 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. So like I said, we're live right now. What else did I see? Well, if anybody believes that Ryan Fitzpatrick is that gives you the best chance to win, I would look at not only his play on the field, but look at his statistics and look at this losing streak. Now, is it all on Ryan Fitzpatrick at this point? No, but, pick six again today, throwing into double coverage to Deshaun Jackson. Fitzmagic has basically reverted back to Fitztragic at this point. It's very disappointing. So, Jameis Winston, I think, played well in this game. Yes, he had an interception at the end of the game, but he's trying to make a play. And can somebody tell me when Deshaun Jackson decides to play hard? Can somebody tell me when he decides to maybe become a defensive back and maybe try to get that ball out of the defender's hands? When does he stop on his routes? When do people learn that, yes, he is an explosive weapon? But really, honestly, in some plays this year, the guy has given up on a lot of his routes. He really has. And it's really disappointing, to say the least, with this team. JPP had a half a sack today. Gerald McCoy had a sack today. But overall, the defense couldn't do anything to stop Saquon Barkley. I mean, this couldn't. They couldn't do anything against them. That was the biggest fear coming into this game, over 100 yards. The guy could do whatever he wants to. I'm not going to make excuses, but look, when you lose Levante David, you don't have Justin Evans and Quan Alexander. But at the end of the day, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensively are a mess, and they're on pace to give up 550 yards. And yet we talk week after week about the quarterback play. Let's talk about the problem with this team. The problem with this team is their defense. It's been at the beginning of the year. Even when they beat the New Orleans Saints, they still gave up 40 points. They gave up 38 points today, scored 35. What does that tell you? It tells me it's an attitude. It tells me that it's a lack of talent. It tells me there's a lack of accountability. How in the world does a team the last 3 weeks turn over the ball 8 times? 23 turnovers with 1 interception. Really? That's what you're looking. That's what you're on pace for right now. You're on pace to basically go with the new 1965 Pittsburgh Steelers. That was not a good team at all. That's your turnover ratio right now. Look at Fitzpatrick's statistics the last 3 games. Like I said, 8 turnovers, 3 in this game. Red zone turnovers kill him. Finally had a running game today. That was one positive. You see how the offense reacts, but it's just not enough at this point. It really isn't. It's not enough. The defense is not good enough. The offense is good enough, but they still turn over the ball. And can somebody tell me why every week Dirk Cutter doesn't have this team ready to play? I mean, honestly, it's an attitude thing at this point. And it starts from the kickoff. Explain this to me. If you have a struggling defense and you win the coin toss, and I know this may seem comical to you, but just bear with me on this. If you win the coin toss, why not take the ball? Why not let your offense go down and score some points? You know the defense is not going to stop anybody. Why not have the attitude? But see, the attitude isn't there. It's not there. The aggressive nature is not there. So like I asked this question on Saturday on the radio show, on the Tan Talk Sports Network, the Sports Web, the evolution of sports talk radio, fans, do you feel comfortable going forward with Dirk Cutter? Do you think he's a guy that's going to get you to the playoffs? Do you think he's a guy that's going to get you to the promised land in the Super Bowl? Look at this year. Look at the last couple years. After the 9-7 record, it's been a disaster. He's not the guy. And I would hate to give up on a 24-year-old quarterback like Jameis Winston, who shows you, 4 straight touchdown drives, 12 for 15, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looked good today. He had some possible mistakes in that game. Absolutely possible mistakes he could have made. And there's going to have to be a coach and an offensive coordinator that sits down with this kid. And make no mistake about it, he's still a kid, 24 years old. You're going to have to sit down with this kid, and you're going to have to basically drill it in his head that he can't win the game. But honestly, can you blame this offense? I mean, with this defense not being able to stop anybody every week, it's unbelievable. So let's go out to Bucs Report. Let's take some questions. Let's vent. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. I hope you guys are enjoying your Sunday, even though the Bucs didn't win. We're live here on Bucs Report, live on Facebook. I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on the Tan Talk Sports Network. So here we go. Johnny says we're cashed in. I told everybody Jameis Winston, believe in Jameis Winston. Wayne, I wanted to play Jameis Winston against the Giants. I wanted to see how he could handle an adverse situation. That's what you want from your franchise quarterback. So if Dirk Cutter has any doubts at this point who should be the starting quarterback right now next week going against the San Francisco 49ers, it should be Jameis Winston. If not, then honestly, he needs his head examined. I'm sorry. I mean, it's nothing personal, but do you want to see what you have in a 24-year-old quarterback? Do you want to see? Because I've had enough of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Have you had enough? I've had enough. Have you had enough of turnovers? Have you had enough of inconsistent play at quarterback? I have. All right. The best thing of the Bucs team is they gave the Saints their only loss. That's pretty much it at this point. I mean, but you can't win every week like that. You can't. You cannot win every week like that. Here's how you can win. You can win with the average defense. You can win by getting after the quarterback. You can win after causing turnovers. By the way, even though there's been injuries to this team this year, do you see any playmakers? That's on Jason Light. Do you see anybody stepping up and maybe causing a fumble or trying to cause an interception? You don't see that. So obviously that's also on Jason Light. So it remains to be seen where this Buccaneer organization goes. But for me at this point, Dirk Cutter's done. I think Jason Light may be done. I think it's time to clean house. I think it's time to look in a different direction for this team. It's time to get a coach that can use the talents that are on this team to their best of their ability. That's what it's time for. It's time for a general manager to go after talent that's going to help this team win. All right. Doesn't matter whoever plays first half plays garbage. Whoever plays second half hero still isn't building wins. You're absolutely correct, and that's my biggest thing and my biggest indictment with Dirk Cutter. Why does it take a team to be down 14-0 to wake up? When is this coach going to become aggressive? When is this coach going to get this team ready to play? Yeah, the Giants are coming in 2-7. The Bucs are 3-6. They're not a good team. They showed it today. The 49ers may not be a good team, but neither are the Bucs. So how are they not getting up for these games? How are they always starting off slow? Yes, it's the defense, but it's also a mentality with this team. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Mentality is a direct reflection on leadership. Who is your leader? Dirk Koetter. There you go. All right, we finally have a kicker. That was positive today. No missed extra points. No field goals tried, but I like to see it. Defense and special teams are horrendous. They've absolutely cost us this year. I agree with that. The problem is the GM has failed to attempt to sign a defense. I agree with you. He's tried to get players, and JPP has 9.5 sacks. He's only a half a sack away from basically eclipsing that record that stood since 2006 for getting a double-digit sacker. JPP has played well. Everybody else on this team, Vinny Curry's not played well. He's been injured. Vita Vea hasn't started enough games to really see. Bo Allen is clearly a run stopper, but hasn't even been good at that. I mean, and the secondary, it's, you know, how many times this year, Bucs fans, are we going to see a cornerback or a defensive player look at the player instead of turn his head back and get his hand up? That's technique, ladies and gentlemen. And that, again, is on coaching. All right. Let's see. We should have signed Le'Veon Bell and traded for Ramsey during the offseason. Gave up our first-round pick, fourth with the future third. What do you think? I think it's risky at this point. I think you have a lot of needs. I think Peyton Barber showed today that when he gets the carries, that he's able to be productive. So I'm not sure if they need Le'Veon Bell. But what I will say is if Jalen Ramsey is on the trade block, number one, he's a playmaker. He hasn't had as good of a year as he had last year. And my question is, why is he on the trade block? Is it because of all the talk? Maybe you need a little bit of talk on this team. Need a pass rush and defense. Absolutely. We always need a pass rush and defense. Not enough. Look, when you got Peyton Manning hitting he looked like Peyton Manning today. Eli Manning hitting his first 11 passes, that's a problem. It really is. Let's see. Let's get some more questions here. Questions are coming. Love it, love it, love it. All right, let's see. 35 points should win a game. We would need to score 100 points a game to compete. I agree, Johnny. We need 100 points, and unfortunately, the other team would score 107. That's how our defense is this year. Calvin Baker says no. Matt says no. Where's Debo? I don't know, but Debo did a great job today live here on Bucs Report. Good job. Thanks a lot, Carler, for tuning in. Firing Dirk won't fix this. Really? I don't know how it won't. How do you know it won't fix it? How do you know what you can get from Winston? How do you know what you can get from these players if you go and you hire a coach that not only is good in game situations but is decisive? You go to Winston, you go to Fitzpatrick, and back to Winston again. You know, again, this team does the same thing. Why can't they have the attitude? So I'm ready to fire Dirk Koetter at this point. What has Dirk Koetter done in the NFL? Most interceptions in Matt Ryan's career, 45, when he was offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons. That's what he's done. I think we are waiting on Harbaugh. Which one? Is it Jim or is it John? We shall see. Let's see here. Koetter is over his head. He's finished. I agree. Rebuilding takes time. New coach means a full reset. Well, it may need a full reset, but do you want to continue? Again, Matt, my question to you is, do you feel confident in going with Dirk Koetter next year? Do you think he's going to take you to the playoffs and to the Super Bowl? Just answer yes or no. New coach, Keith, thanks a lot for tuning in. Santos did do a great job today. That's a positive, absolutely. There were positives in this game. Peyton Barber running over 100 yards. Jameis Winston leading this team to 4 touchdown drives, although he almost fumbled, which a lot of people, but they didn't. He got it together. Mike Evans got the touchdown in the end zone. He made some good throws. A deep pass to Mike Evans. Give him credit, please. All right, let's see here. This is why we shouldn't get rid of Koetter. Instead, the Glazers should focus on shoring up the defense and offensive line. We can't keep reinventing the wheel with a new coach. Well, James, how do you know a new coach like a John Harbaugh won't come in here and turn this team around? Maybe you don't have to get rid of every player on this team in order to make it right. Maybe a coach like a John Harbaugh. I look at Sean McVay, and maybe he's an anomaly at this point for the Rams, but you see what he did in turning around the Rams. And if you invest money correctly in free agency, and you invest and you do the right thing in the draft by drafting the right players, that's where you got to go. That's how you got to do it. That's how you get good. Hold on a sec here. So, yeah, we're live here on Bucs Report. Like I said, just taking your questions right now. I'm really glad you guys tuned in. I appreciate it. Stats are for losers. Exactly right. I mean, you can throw for 400 yards every week, but if you're losing, it's not going to help. Let's see. Is it Cooter, not Cutter? That's good, Kyle. I like that. Get Grimes out of here. Grimes has been a disappointment this year. The tackling on this team has been a disappointment overall. This defense is a disappointment. We talk about it every week. You give up 38 points. I mean, the Giants haven't scored this many points in the last 3 years. I mean, it's disgusting. It really is. Hire Derrick Brooks for GM. I'm not sure. Credit is due to Jameis for even getting us back in the game. I agree. And this team, look, give them credit. They get back in the game with their offense. They have some defensive stops. But when it comes down to it, why does it come down to that? Every week, why is this team behind the 8 ball? Turnovers, yes, but mentality. It's the mentality of this team. You have to come out and be aggressive. And that means taking the kickoff. As simple as it sounds, it means taking that kickoff, taking the ball first, going down and scoring, and making a mark. Making a statement to your offense. Making a statement to your defense. Why would you continue to do the same thing? That's insane. Your defense hasn't been able to stop anybody at all this year. O.J. Howard, Lincoln Riley from OU. That's been a name out there. RatPackSports.com. Absolutely, definitely go and tune into that. Should have kept Lovie Smith. Joel, I don't know if that was the answer either. Defense wasn't good. He was hired to come in here and improve the defense. The defense has been hot garbage overall. Grimes ain't going to come back next year anyways. He's just collecting a check. You're absolutely right, Mike. He is collecting a check. Let's see. I think you said O.J. Howard looking like Tony Gonzalez. He looks like one of the best tight ends in the league. That's a concern in this game because he did get hurt with an ankle injury. It looked pretty bad. So we'll see here in the next couple of days what that leads to, if he's going to be on the IR, if he's going to miss some games. You would hate to lose him with the year that he's had when he's properly used. But what you're watching right now is live, the Sports Web post-game edition, prime time, live from the Tan Talk Sports Studios. I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on WTAN, 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. Remember, join us live at Ferg's on December 15th for our live remote for the Sports Web. Call it the evolution of sports talk radio. We give you your own walk-up music. We let you call in twice, and we don't hang up on you like those other sports talk shows do. By the way, happy Thanksgiving, too. All right, let's see. John Lynch for GM. Too bad, Dale. He's gone. He's with the San Francisco 49ers. Too many times Winston is under pressure. Give him time to make plays. Offensive line is bad as well. Absolutely, JJ. You're going to have to improve that right side of the line. I don't understand why Alex Kappa hasn't been given a start yet. You drafted him 3rd round. That's a premium pick. I like to see what this kid has. Caleb Benenoch has been awful. DeMar Dotson is getting up there in age. He's okay, but you have to think about the future, so you're definitely going to have to retool that offensive line, especially on the right side. And you're also going to have to evaluate if Donovan Smith is your left tackle going forward. All right. Let's see. Only players I kept on D-line are Nassib and JPP. McCoy's not worth the money. I think you could be onto something at this point, and I think, again, this is an evaluation process going into 2019. They may very well either cut or trade McCoy at this point because he's been a shell of himself. Is it because of injury? I don't know, but he hasn't been the same explosive player. And even then, he still hasn't put up the numbers that you would expect for a defensive tackle to put up. I'm in Oklahoma City. Riley ain't going anywhere. He just got the keys to the city. We'll see. Money talks. But is that the direction that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should go? Should they go with another college coach? I'm not sure about that. I would rather see a proven commodity at this point, a John Harbaugh or Mike McCarthy. I don't know what this guy's saying. Read the article in Bucs Report why John Harbaugh should be the Bucs head coach 2019. Yeah, 23 to ratio. The NFL record is 30. That's right, and it's the 1965 Steelers. Absolutely. No sense of urgency from the start of the game. Absolutely. That's what I've talked about. There's no sense of urgency on this team all year long. No sense of urgency. And there hasn't been any sense of urgency with this team the last 2 years. There really hasn't. And you could go back to the third year, Cutter's first year when they had a bad start and started off 3-5. So it's a sense of urgency on this team. There needs to be leadership change. There needs to be some players need to be changed. And there also needs to be a coach that's a proven commodity where these players will be held accountable and they're going to respect this coach. Obviously, if you look on the field, they don't respect Cutter. Sorry, just my opinion. Our offense scored an average of 27 points, which is not bad at all in the NFL. We have no defense at all. We don't have any. Everybody else play aggressive except us. Why? I have no idea. That's coaching. Once the other team builds a large lead, we come back against a prevent defense and then lose a close game. Same script. It is. It's like Groundhog Day. You know, it's like watching a bad horror movie. And you know that most people in that horror movie are going to die. It's like watching Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. How many times can you watch that movie? He's going to kill a lot of people, and then eventually he's going to possibly get killed at the end. But no, he's not. He's going to come back because they're going to make another 20 sequels, and most of all those sequels are going to be the same thing as the first movie. That's what it's like watching the Bucs. It really is. It's terrible. All starting linebackers are gone. I agree. Too many problems to address in one text. At least Bucs aren't trying to interview Secretary Condoleezza Rice. Silver lining. I don't know what the Browns are doing. Who knows? I mean, their owner. When I saw that today, I don't understand it. Look, is there a woman that can coach in the NFL? Absolutely. Is it Condoleezza Rice? I'm not sure. You know why I'm not sure? Because she's never coached in the NFL. Love Barber at running back. Offensive line has to be addressed during the offseason. Agree. It does. And Barber has to get more attempts, and that comes back to coaching. That comes back to being balanced on the offense. It's a better offense, ladies and gentlemen, when they're balanced. Mentality has to establish the run. The run is what made Jameis more efficient. There has to be a commitment to the running the ball, everything the playbook opens up. Agree, Frank. And what is Jameis Winston good at? What was he good at when he came out of Florida State? Play action pass. I'm going to go ahead and cut my DirecTV NFL ticket. Maybe we will start winning. Well, Joel, don't do that. There's no reason for that. You know, there's a lot of good NFL games to watch, and even though you're a Bucs fan at this point, who knows? Maybe they'll win a couple more games. But at this point, looking at the schedule, it's going to be tough. It really is. Donovan Smith is terrible too. He has his moments, Kyle. Definitely he's inconsistent, and you're definitely going to have to evaluate that situation and see if you want to go with another left tackle because he's up for a contract. Smith gone, Caleb gone, Dotson gone. It's possible, Brent. Absolutely. Donovan Smith is a weak link. Let's see. No college coaches. Mike Leach. Kyle, I don't know what you're thinking. No Mike Leach here. How do we beat the Saints but can't beat the Giants? Gut the team and start over. Well, again, you know, you catch the Saints in the first game of the year. You score 48 points. They only score 40. Their defense was worse on that day than the Bucs defense. So that's how you do it. And the Bucs offense was perfect. They didn't turn over the ball. The first two games of the year, you really didn't turn over the ball. You had one turnover versus the Eagles, and that was a tipped pass by O.J. Howard. So basically, you have to play perfect offense. You can't turn over the ball, and you got to hope your defense makes a stop. And it hasn't happened. Hire the first female head coach at this point. No, I'm not touching that. Winston is the franchise quarterback, like it or not. If we draft another quarterback, we'll be hitting the restart button. If we do, that's not good because we have plenty of talent on this team. Thoughts? My thoughts are that you have Winston, who has a turnover problem. We talked about it with his deep passing. Again, he completed a pass today deep to Mike Evans, which was nice to see. I would like to see him with another coach that could get him over the top. Get him a different coach. Get him another voice. Let's see what we got here. He's a 24-year-old quarterback. He has some turnover problems. I thought in the Cincinnati game he lost his confidence. I thought today he played better. And I didn't think there was any – I think the main reason why is because you have balance to the offense. You have a defense that's not necessarily looking for the pass. They're also looking for the run, which means that play-action pass and those deep passes open up because you have balance. Look at the best offense in Tampa Bay Buccaneer history, 2015. Why? Doug Martin has over 1,000 yards. Jameis Winston, it cuts down the times you throw the ball. If you throw the ball 33 to 40 times a game, even over that, you're really asking for turnover at this point, and that's the way you have to treat it. You have to have balance to your offense, whether you like it or not. The Bucs are not good enough to be one-dimensional. They're not. This defense can't stop anybody. You're not good enough. All right, let's see. Jim Schwartz, all he could manage is consistent 9-7. Tampa Bay would flip for that. Well, we flipped for 2016, and it hasn't improved. So how about a playoff appearance? Would that be good? When's the last time the Bucs made the playoffs? 2008? How long has it been, honestly, for this team? Isn't it disappointing? Was it 2007? I think it was 2007 against the New York Giants, who went on to win the Super Bowl that year. They got beaten in the wild card game. Let's see. Jim or John, I don't care. The team needs either one. I agree. Deshaun Jackson gave up on a couple plays. He's done that all year long, guys. We've seen it. We've seen it all year long. This just in, Bucs signed Michael Myers. Good job, Kyle. I still don't think he would kill it on this team. Sorry, bad joke. Tampa Bay has number one offense. That's Cutter's influence. The defense is the problem. They're partly due to injuries with no depth. I agree, Matt, but also it's a number one offense that can't score on occasions, which they did last week. It's a number one offense that turns over the ball way too much, and a defense that can't get turnovers. We have a top five offense, just don't got a good offensive line. Well, that goes back to running game, right? You have to have a consistent running game. They should change the tempo like no huddle to jumpstart the offense. I can't figure out why Cutter can't figure it out, because he's a coach that has not been able to get off to good starts this year, and this team hasn't been able to get off to good starts, and that's why they've been behind the eight ball most of their games this year. Don't forget, you have to score 48 points, absolutely. It bothers me having another OJ in the area. Kyle, I don't know what you're going at, but that's not even the same thing. All right, guys, what you're looking at, what you're listening to right now is the Sports Web, live from the Tan Talk Sports Studios. I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on WTAN 106.1 FM and 13 to 40 AM. Remember, we will be live at Ferg's on December 15th. And, of course, we're live on Bucs Report on Facebook doing the post-game show. If we keep Winston, what do we pay him? Well, Brent, you're most likely going to have to pay him $20 million. So if there's a coach out there that feels they can get the most out of a 24-year-old quarterback and they think that he's worth $21 million, that's most likely what you're going to have to pay him. Turnovers make my eyes bleed. I agree, Corey, they do. Agree with the new coach for Winston. Tell us, I don't know who that is. UF. I don't know where you're going with that, MJ. Re-ask that question. Yeah, you definitely need to go with a new coach, and you got to go with a proven commodity. No college coaches at this point. No college coaches. Dirk Cutter to be fired tomorrow. I doubt it, Corey. This is not the way the Glazers work. They don't fire coaches mid-season. Adam Humphries, most athletic wide receiver. He's a gamer. Definitely plays well, that's for sure. Had one of those screen passes again. Jameis had 3 near turnovers in a quarter and a half. Luck just stepped in. You cannot do that. Look, Matt, there's a lot of quarterbacks that could have a lot of turnovers, but he didn't. But I absolutely agree with you. There has to be a coach that comes in here and gets Winston on the same track of not trying to make those throws into those crowded windows to take what the defense gives you. I agree with you on that. Make bad decisions even worse. Agree. Winston makes bad passes, yes, but also look at the passes that aren't caught, that should have been caught. Humps today had one hit him in the chest, almost caused an INT. Why isn't there a stat for receivers that cause INTs? That's a great question, Dave. You know, that's the reason why, you know, quarterbacks, they receive a lot of the praise, but they also are unfairly criticized, and that's one of these situations that goes on in the NFL. I'm just trying to have a cold or a flu today. Well, I don't know why you would be trying to have a cold or a flu today. That's no good. I mean, that's like watching the Bucs play defense. The flu is terrible. I don't know what's worse, the flu, which I had it a couple weeks ago, or watching the Bucs play defense. They're continually bad. All right. I would love to cut some of the fat and start over. We have a few good players here we can trade to help us build our team. Well, it's certainly possible, Corey. Again, it depends on who you're going to get as a general manager, but I think this team definitely needs an overhaul at this point and an attitude adjustment. Somebody to come in here and light a fire under these guys' asses and get them ready to play every given week. And if not, then why are you playing in the NFL? NFL means not for long. Let's see. Winston must learn. He can't make the same passes he did at FSU. You're exactly right, Kyle. You can't throw in those small windows sometimes. You have to take what the defense gives you. And there were a couple plays today where he should dump it off to Peyton Barber, or he has Mike Evans in the flat, and he doesn't take it. He throws in the crowded window, and it's not a good play for Winston. And again, Winston has to learn. But I'm willing to basically see what Winston has here and evaluate him for 2019, because I would hate to give up on him being a 24-year-old quarterback that has these type of tools. You look at his statistics today, again, 12 for 15, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had the interception at the end, but again, that's just somebody trying to make a play. That's going to happen. Overall, I thought he played very well. We need an experienced head coach. Peyton, Rivera, Quinn have over 200 combined wins, 3 Super Bowl appearances. That's a lot for a rookie coach to compete, and the NFC South is brutal. You're exactly right, and that NFC South is not going to improve at all, Alex. You look at the quarterbacks, but you're going to have to build a defense, and you're going to have to get consistent pass rush from that defensive line, which you haven't had. Let's see. Vita C, Vita, I guess there's somebody saying Vita Bay. John Harbaugh would make a great coach for the Bucs. He's a proven commodity. Defensive and special teams, he's done a pretty good job. He's won a Super Bowl. Why not? And look, the Ravens may want to go a different direction at this point, so maybe he's the guy you would call. Maybe a Mike McCarthy. Maybe things don't work out there with Aaron Rodgers. So, learn to take a sack. Exactly, agree. Not many new GMs out there. Well, maybe try to go out and find somebody, Corey. Who would you like to see here in Tampa as the next coach? Select from hot seat coaches, please, Peter. Well, I've said Jim Harbaugh. That would be my choice because he's in college, and I think things are working out for him in Michigan, so maybe he gets that itch again. But if you had to put a gun to my head, I think it would either be John Harbaugh or Mike McCarthy. Would that be good? Okay, good to go. Let's see. If Cutter were to be fired before season's end, who takes over? Most likely it's going to be Todd Monken, and that's why he's not going to be fired. I don't think there's a coach on this staff that could take over the head coach. And what's the point? You're 3-7. Jim Schwartz, I bet on it. I don't know, Matt. I mean, he's definitely a possibility. Do you think he's going to get you over? I don't know. We need a new GM, a coach, and a secondary to that. I agree. Jim H. would fix Winston. I think he would, Corey. Absolutely. He did throw up a prayer at the end. He absolutely did, and that's why he got intercepted. Chuck Pagano, Bucs new head coach next season. Corey, I don't know why you go with that. Chuck Pagano is Dirk Cutter's friend. He's a defensive mind, and he's really never done anything with the Colts. I don't think he's the answer. I'm sorry. Todd Monken has the OC seat. He could take over. Dirk got fired. Really, though, is it going to improve this team? I mean, at this point, is it going to improve? I don't know. Holmgren for GM? No, I think he's washed up at this point. Djax needs to go. He calls that INT. Didn't even try to catch the ball or knock it away. He didn't, and he's done that this year. He's given up on some plays. It's not a good look. I would expect the Buccaneers to go a different direction at this point with the Chris Godwin stepping up. You saw him today. Chris Godwin is a starting wide receiver on this team, and you can basically wash your hands with Jackson at this point. He's a veteran. He's looking to get paid, and I don't think he's a part of the Bucs' future plans. Just my opinion. After all said and done, I would take a number 10 offense with a number 10 defense. We would definitely get some wins. I agree, Frank. Absolutely, and I think a lot of people have talked about that ad nauseum. If you just had an average defense and a great offense, you most likely would win some more games. But again, it's the starts, it's the accountability on this team, it's the urgency, and it's the talent in some ways. The defense has not been able to step up. You allow an offense that hasn't scored that many points in the last 3 years to put up the most, and you have no answer for Saquon Barkley. You have no answer for Eli Manning. You have no answer for Odell Beckham or Evan Ingram. You have no answer. No answer at all. Yes, Mike McCarthy is an excellent pick. That's my pick. Okay. John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh both coach Bucs next season. Corey, I think you're dreaming. Peter, would you keep Light and fire Cutter? That's tough to say. I don't know if Jason Light's the answer either, because you look at the defensive line, you look at his draft picks. This year has been a complete disaster. Vita Vea has been hurt. He hasn't been able to show you what he has. Ronald Jones doesn't look like he's the answer at this point, at least this year. You look at Alex Kappa, he really hasn't played. Has Jason Light given this team some talent? Yes. But overall, we're still talking about the same thing. So to answer your question, no, I would get rid of Jason Light also. And I would get a football president of operations to oversee whoever the GM is. And if you're the Buccaneer organization, please hire the GM first and then hire the coach, or hire the football personnel president of operations. Let him hire the GM, and hopefully you'll hire a coach. But you have to have continuity on this team. You can't hire a coach and then have him hire a GM. GM should be hired, the president of football operations, and then the coach. Does that all make sense? Quiz afterwards. There you go. All right. Let's see. Monken's offense, he learned from Mike Martz. It's called air raid. It's awesome. Well, it's a shame because, again, in the red zone, the last couple years it hasn't been good. Last couple years hasn't been good with Dirk Cutter calling the plays. But Todd Monken has had a good system. It's just turnovers are killing you. It killed you this game. I heard Bill Pullian is available. Maybe as a consultant or a GM, I'm all for Bill Pullian trying to be a consultant at this point. The man knows football. Monken is not the problem. He is the only bright light in the mix. Okay. John Fox, defensive coordinator next season. Corey, I think you're just throwing out names. It's okay. Holmgren knows how to build a team. Questionable. I think Holmgren's done at this point, guys. I think we need to look at other names at this point. Jesse says, cut Deshaun, Beninock, Donovan Smith, Evan Smith, Vinnie Curry, Bo Allen, Devontae Bond, trade for Jalen Ramsey, and draft the best available defensive back in round 1. Definitely a possibility, but I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to just trade Jalen Ramsey for anything. So, again, it's going to be up to the new GM to make that deal at this point. Josh McDaniels next year. I see him taking over the New England Patriots at this point. Jim Bob Cooter. Fox is washed up. No Fox. What happened to Jack Del Rio? I think Frank Jack Del Rio is still in the mix. I would like to see more of a guy that's proven like a John Harbaugh or a Mike McCarthy. Dungy, GM and president of football operations. Matt, it's a nice pipe dream, but I don't know if Tony Dungy wants to come back to this situation at this point. I don't think he has a great relationship with the Glazers. Why is Kyle Shanahan hot in a hot seat? I don't know. I don't know what you're saying there, Corey. Johnny Pagano is also John Harbaugh guy. It's possible he could be the Bucs defensive coordinator. As a defensive coordinator, I could buy that. As a head coach, not so much. I could see that. Ozzie Newsome, president of football operations, would be nice, Johnny. It really would. Let's see here. I'm giving Vea a pass this season. Want to see him after a true training camp. I agree with that. Let's see what he can do next year. But if he's an injured player and he's ineffective, like he's been in a couple games this year, I would definitely question. But again, you have to give a draft prospect at least 3 years to really see what you have here. Let's see. Peter, why has Light ignored the defensive side of the ball when it comes to free agency and draft? They even could have traded for Collins from the Giants. Drew, I don't understand it. I mean, I think Light has tried. I think he's tried to improve the defensive line by getting a JPP and getting a Vinny Curry, but you know, you don't get a defensive lineman in the draft the last couple years. You draft a kicker, you draft other players at that position. There's just so many things. I mean, he's not done a great job in free agency, even going back as far as getting the player from the Giants who had 7.5 sacks, Robert Ayers, who was never a pass rushing talent, but basically you're just thinking, okay, he's got 7.5 sacks, he's going to be another warm body. No, he's a guy that has never been a double-digit sacker. So it's tough. You know, it's really tough to find defensive linemen. You could have traded for Fowler this year, Dante Fowler, who has a lot of upside but's never really done it consistently in the NFL. I mean, you have to draft, you have to understand your talent, and if you don't draft well, then you have to make up for it in free agency, and if you don't do that, then this is what you have at this point. Does that make sense? Okay, good question, Drew. I like your questions. Let's see. Vita Myron Vey is a big waste of money. 6'4", 300-plus pounds of butter. I'm not ready to say that, Corey, but he has been hurt this year, and it has been disappointing that he hasn't brought more to that defensive line. Beckwith is the next middle linebacker. Quan is out. I agree with you, Dave, on that. Terrell Austin is a name. Mike Malarkey, no, that's a retread. Don't want to see it. Soft training camps produce low intensity. Translates into late starts in games and slow starts in seasons. Definitely can make that point, couldn't you? The last couple of years, especially with Hard Knocks. Everyone, Derek Brooks has issues with the Glazers, so I don't know if he would even take any job with the Bucs ever since they cut Dungy. That's certainly possible. And look, maybe it's a Derek Brooks, maybe it's somebody else outside of the organization. You would like to see somebody that could oversee these situations and hiring football people. Again, to be fair to the Glazers, I think they've tried their best to put their resources, but at the end of the day, they're not football people. You have to get football people in those proper positions to make those crucial decisions for your team going forward. Quan will be in the Ring of Honor. He's not going anywhere. I'm not sure about Quan. I think Quan wants lots of money coming off the injury at this point. I think Quan is a liability in coverage. He's inconsistent also. Maybe he comes back for a one-year deal. Hello, Peter. They need to do a better job in the red zone. Exactly, Mike. They absolutely have to do a better job in the red zone. You can't turn over the ball. You go for 4th down today early in the game. You don't get it. It's disappointing. It's disappointing when you get down to the red zone. That's your money zone. You got to cash in, so you're exactly right. Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers, problem solved, open the bank. Hey, if you can get both of them, absolutely. But I think that's a pipe dream at this point. And what you're watching right now is the Bucs Report live on Facebook, the Sports Web post-game show live from the Tan Talk Sports Studios. I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on WTAN, 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. Let's see. Coach Klein from Waterboy. If he could get his confidence back, he probably has more confidence. Cutter probably has as much confidence as Coach Klein at the beginning of the movie. We need a Coach Klein at the end of the movie that has confidence. Bucs draft Bobby Boucher. Now you're playing with me. Bucs should draft Chubb. That is already passed. There's no way they're going to be able to draft any Chubb at this point. I think his hands are tied at the moment. That's why they keep re-signing from the practice squad. I don't know. All office needs to be cleaned. Mike, Peter, how did the Bucs handle Quan Alexander? He has a serious injury and his contract is up. Do you pay him? I pay him on a one-year deal. I see where he's at with his injury. I think he's been an inconsistent linebacker. I think Kendall Beckwith has been a better linebacker when he came in last year at the middle. I think you seriously have to consider moving Quan Alexander to the outside spot, but you have to evaluate where his injury is. If you don't think he's where he's at, he wants more money. See you later, Quan Alexander. Let's see. 225 is small for a middle linebacker. Look, Quan's fast. He's not the best tackler, and he's also not great in coverage, and he's been inconsistent. But when he does play his game, he is a force, and I thought before he had the injury that he was playing one of his best games. So it's disappointing. You like to see more from him. Dirk looks drained at every press conference. Well, I don't know what you have to say at this point, Mitchell. I think the guy knows he most likely is on the hot seat and most likely will lose his job here eventually. It's a sad shame, but it's the NFL. Again, it comes down to not for long. Hargraves, what do you think? Give him another year after the injury or move on? I think you have to give him another year and see where he's at, because this year right now is a wash. Maybe in a better defensive system. Maybe a defensive coordinator will be able to use his best talents. That would be good. Let's see. Bumble for Bosa. I've heard worse, but Nick Bosa, why not? You didn't get Joey Bosa, so maybe you get Nick Bosa. Clean RJS out. Let's see. Barber should have got the 4th down run. Quarterback keep with Fitz was trash. I agree. It's absolute. And again, goes back to the mentality thing, right, guys? If you want to be a physical team, and what do we hear at the beginning of the season? He wanted to have a kick-ass football team. Well, if you're a kick-ass football team and you want to have that physicality, you would run on 4th down with Peyton Barber, right? If you want to be that physical team, but yet you're not. You go for a quarterback sneak and you get stuffed. So Beckwith is the overall better prototypical middle linebacker. I agree. Dirk is the walking dead at this point. Peter, if Light and Cutter are fired, most likely Jameis is gone. Who do you go after as a bridge quarterback for the next guy? Bridge quarterback, well, speaking of bridge, maybe it's Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe that's your guy at this point. I would definitely have to look at the list and see who's out there. But I think there will be a coach in here that will want to come in here and work with a 24-year-old quarterback. I don't necessarily think Jameis Winston is done yet. We'll see. We'll see. What's up? What's up with Kendall linebacker? I don't know. Chubb before the draft. Do we draft a quarterback or improve the offensive line? Depends on who the new coach and GM is. I don't know at this point. I really don't. And it's tough for me because, again, I came into the season being a Winston fan. And then, of course, he has the suspension. And then you bring him back in after the blowout. And then he plays well. And then he has turnover problems. It's inconsistent. It really is. It's tough to say who this quarterback going forward is. But I would hate to give up on a quarterback that has shown some flashes of brilliance, and he showed it today. He really did. Kicking was solid. That was good. Peter, apply for the coaching job. I believe in you, and I believe in you too. I believe in you too. Thank you very much, Mitchell. Good play on words. Thank you. Tyrod Taylor for a year. It's possible, definitely. Joe Flacco, free agent offseason. Bucs should sign him. Corey, that's an interesting possibility, especially with John Harbaugh. And I think the talk has been with Harbaugh, the fact that he doesn't necessarily want to go with Lamar Jackson. He wants to go with Joe Flacco, so maybe that's the reason why he's exiting with the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe you could see that combination at this point. Dirk is like The Walking Dead. He was okay for a couple seasons, but now he's just trash. That's tough, man. It's tough. Dirk Cutter has not been good. He has not been good at all. Let's see. Winston equals turnovers. Don't think he'll ever get away from that. Well, Keith, it just depends. I mean, he's had one coach in his life. It's been Dirk Cutter. I mean, I guess Lovie Smith, but supposedly Dirk Cutter had this relationship with Jameis Winston. So let's see another coach and see if he can get him over the top. If not, they'll go a different way. Bridgewater would be a great, more than just a bridge quarterback. We'll see. We'll see what he does coming off that injury. He hasn't really played that much, but we'll see. Peter, I can't imagine the Bucs owners watching the Bucs game on TV. What is the conversation they're having watching this team that is now 3-7? Wow. I think they're shaking their heads. I mean, they've done everything you can do at this point. They've tried to invest money. They've tried to invest in football people that they believe can make these decisions, and it hasn't worked out. It's a shame. Winston is good, but he's too inconsistent. I agree. He is inconsistent to a certain degree, but let's stop focusing on quarterback and let's focus on the real problem. It's about building this defense and having a defense that's at least average, ladies and gentlemen. You gave up 35 points. You've given up points all year long. And, this offense can score 1,000,000 points, but if your defense can't stop anybody, that's the main problem. That's what you have to focus on at this point. Let's see. Winston is good, but let's see. $20 million is going to go for the going rate quarterback. You give JW another year with a new coach. He just can't give up on a 24-year-old quarterback this soon. This has been inconsistent line play, running game, as well as poor defensive play. I mean, and again, that's the elephant in the room, ladies and gentlemen, right? I mean, we talk about the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You guys right now are on Bucs Report watching the post-game show. I'm your host, Peter Blake, the Sports Web, the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area. The elephant in the room at this point is a Doug Williams when you get rid of him and he wins the Super Bowl with the Washington Redskins. It's a Steve Young who wins the Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. It's a Chris Chandler who leads the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl. It's a Trent Dilfer who wins a Super Bowl. Do you want to have that happen again? Do you want another quarterback to go Vinny Testaverde goes to the Jets, leads them to the AFC Championship? Do you want another quarterback to go to a team and win a championship and watch that on TV? I don't, but I don't know what to say about Winston. What I can tell you is that he has all the traits, all the potential to be a fantastic quarterback, but he has to improve on the turnover situation, and hopefully there's a coach out there, and I believe there is, that can turn him around. John Harbaugh. Let's see. They need to bring in an EVP to fix this team. What's an EVP? Please clarify that, Rick. I think that's a good question. Winston is inconsistent because his head coach is inconsistent. Get a top-tier coach, and Jameis will be able to turn it around. Would Hugh Jackson be a great fit for head coach? No, not at all. I don't agree with Hugh Jackson. He threw 20 picks at FSU his sophomore year. He was inaccurate. Again, he has things to work on. It's coachable. Let's see. Keep Winston. He's as good and could be great. I agree with you. I think he could be. He has to have confidence. He has to play in the confines of the offense. When the defense gives you the flat pass, you got to take the flat pass. What the defense gives you, that's what you have to take. Jameis Winston next to Alex Smith. Corey, that is hopefully not going to happen. But you know what? In terms of Alex Smith, it took him some years because he had a change of offensive coordinators. This would be, the second or third offensive coordinator? But then Alex Smith turned around because he had a coach like a Jim Harbaugh that turned him around. Don't need any defensive backs and cornerbacks that are at least 6 feet or taller. I agree. You definitely need to get more physical. You have to get a defensive coordinator in here that's going to have to understand the talent and also best use the talent and put them in situations to win, which is what this coaching staff hasn't been able to do. Winston's issues aren't just on the field. Well, Rick, that's definitely a question. I mean, and that's definitely been a question. It happened 2 years ago. It cost this team to a certain degree. It cost him most likely, so you definitely have to weigh that out. And whoever comes in here as a football player of operations, a GM, and a coach will have to weigh that decision, and you have to make it. And if you feel like Winston isn't the quarterback for the future, then most likely you have to move on. Executive Vice President of Football Operations. I agree. They need a true football guy to fix the front office, coaches, and scouting department. They do, and it starts from every which way. I mean, it really does. I mean, when you have players that are being traded to good teams like a Marcus Peters and you're not even looking at him, that's a problem for me. When you have players out there that are getting traded and you're not looking at them, when you have players coming off the street like an Eric Reed who can help your safety position, but you don't sign him because you're good with what you have. You're not good at what you have because you're 3-7. That's the point. Why is Kappa not playing on the right side? Why is he always inactive? Give him a friggin' shot. Beninock and Dotson is garbage. I think Dotson has been good, but he's getting up there in age. I think Beninock has not been good, and I don't understand why Alex Kappa isn't getting a start. Derek Brooks would be a great choice. I think he would be to a certain degree. He tried to build up the storm, but he knows the NFL. He knows football. Why not try to hire Derek Brooks if that's in their plans at this point? Let's see. Rick, you're late to the party. That's okay, Frank. The party is still going on. Exactly. Peterson. Peterson comes to mind. I don't know if you read this. Credit to Joe Bucks fan. But they said that Adrian Peterson wanted to sign with the Bucs. And because of Jameis Winston, and the Bucs were not interested in looking at him. They didn't sign him. How much is Winston worth? How much should we pay to keep him? Average $20 million for a new contract. That's the market value for a young quarterback, unfortunately. That's most likely what you're going to have to pay. I would like to see Ryan Griffin with the first team. Who knows? He may be the next Tom Brady. I don't know about Ryan Griffin at this point. Sorry about the alarm in the back, guys. Let's see here. John Harbaugh, next head coach. Next season, defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio. Right now, Jameis isn't worth much more than an average quarterback. I'm not sure about that, Matt. Again, I'm not ready to give up on him. Let's evaluate, see what he does here in the next couple games. I think Cutter is going to make another quarterback change, but again, it comes down to the defense. It really doesn't matter how many points you score with this team on offense. You can't stop anybody. And it puts added pressure on this offense to be perfect, and you have to be perfect at this point. That's why it's so important to have a running game, because it kind of slows things down. If you can have a running game and have a grinded out offense, then maybe you keep your defense off the field, right? Let's see. Stop focusing on just the players. People, the front office is the real problem here. I think everybody at this point definitely has to look themselves in the mirror, and there's going to have to be, again, this word, an evaluation process in 2019. All right, so guys, what you're watching right now is the Sports Web live post-game show from the Tan Talk Sports Studios. I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on WTAN 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. The evolution of sports talk radio. We give you your own welcome music. We'll let you call in twice, and we don't hang up on you like those other sports talk shows do. Thanks for joining me. By the way, happy Thanksgiving. All right, let's see. Harbaugh should be the next head coach if he becomes available. They need to go all in on him. I agree, but which one? Is it Jim or John? Which one? We'll see. If you pay Jameis $20 million, you hate money. What about Bill Cowher as a head coach? $20 million for Jameis Winston is a going rate. Bill Cowher, I think, is retired at this point. I say hire Jack Del Rio because he knows Tony Dungy. Corey, I don't think that's a good reason. Jack Del Rio was inconsistent as a coach. I'm not sure if he's the guy you want. Bucs need, in a full evaluation mode, start some of the rotation guys, and let's see Ryan. Johnny, I would rather see at this point Jameis Winston than Ryan Griffin. Unless Jameis Winston, again, starts to have these turnover problems, then maybe you look at Ryan Griffin. Everybody absolutely is under evaluation process going in. They're 3-7. Go get Bernard from the Bengals. We need a running back. You know what? I think Peyton Barber is a good back. I think the problem and the indictment on this offense of Todd Monken or Dirk Cutter, whatever you want to call it, is the volume. They're not giving him the volume, and the problem is because the defense is so bad or the offense turns over the ball and they get down in these early situations, you're really not able to see Peyton Barber and what he can do. But when you give him the volume and you open up those holes for him, you can see that he's got some promise. You just have to, you can't get behind in games, which is what this team has done all year long. And it's an indictment on the coaching staff. It is an attitude. It needs to be adjusted at this point. It hasn't worked out this year. There is absolutely no reason why you get down in games and have to come back. It's gone on too long, and I get it, your defense is bad or turnovers, but enough with the excuses. The coaches, the GM, everybody on this team has to be held accountable. You're a 3-7 football team. Love the show. Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate it. There's a lot of Jameis haters. Did you see the game today? He brought us from almost being lifeless. I agree, Frank. Absolutely. Jameis, to me, is a quarterback that played very well. Again, we talked about the things of turnovers and deep ball accuracy. Deep ball accuracy was not a question mark today. He hit a pretty good pass to Mike Evans, which was nice to see. And guess what he had? Time to throw the ball. There you go. I'm just glad Dirk is going to announce Famous the starter the rest of the season. I hope it is, Kenneth. I hope you get a real good evaluation of him and see if he's your quarterback going forward. That's all I ask for at this point. Peter, if Jameis has another multi-turnover games, does the quarterback carousel keep going? Most likely, Drew, it could. It could, and that's the problem here. It's the quarterback carousel. It's the inconsistency. It's not having the urgency with this team. It's just a combination of what a bad team is, ladies and gentlemen. They're 3-7, and it's just a shame because you look at the response here on Bucs Report. And I love it every week. You guys deserve better than this. And every year you get your hopes up and you believe that this team is turning a corner. And this year is no exception. You beat the Saints. You beat the Philadelphia Eagles. You feel good about it. And then ever since then, it's just been bad. It's just been really bad. It's been bad football. All three phases, offense, defense, and special teams. You could talk about the points all you want to, but when you have a 23-1 turnover margin and you're looking at the 1965 Steelers, that's a problem. So thank you, Raul. I appreciate it. I love you joining us on Bucs Report. What the team needs is a coach that calls out players. I'm not saying a Schiano, but a coach that holds players accountable. There are players on this team that aren't playing to their potential. You got to call them out. I agree. It's all about accountability. And again, I ask this question to you right now, Bucs Report, and we're live here from the Tan Talk Sports Studios. Going a little bit long tonight, but that's okay. I'm your venting guy. I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons. Yeah, you got to call them out. They got to be accountable. You got to get a new voice in here. You got to get somebody that's going to hold these team leaders and all these players accountable, especially with some of the young players on this team. Marshawn Lynch, one out of Oakland. Should target him offseason? No. What about getting Earl Thomas or Peterson? We need good vets on defense. Maybe Earl Thomas would be a key. Let's see how he comes back from that knee injury. You may be able to get him at a discounted rate, but he would definitely be a player that you would definitely look at. Let's see. Peyton Barber is a good back. I agree he needs more carries, but they also have a suspect line. They can't run block. I agree. They can't run block on that right side. They don't do it consistently. You saw today on the fourth down play, Ryan Jensen basically getting pushed back. It's all about a mentality at this point. Rick, you have to have the mentality to run the ball. They run the ball with Fitzpatrick, and I don't understand it. But again, your offensive line, just not good. Just not playing very consistent, especially on that right side with Caleb Benenoch and DeMar Dotson. I think big-time changes on that right side at this point. So we keep starting Fitzpatrick. He's too old, and the season's over. We need to see what we have in Winston. Agree. 100%. Fitz is a dead arm from throwing so much. Maybe he does, but also he makes critical decisions, rookie decisions. Today, you don't throw the ball to Deshaun Jackson on that route. He is double and triple covered. You're trying to make something happen. It's not there. That's a rookie decision that you can't make as a veteran quarterback. You just can't do it. Look, if you're going to be critical of Jameis Winston, be critical of Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay? All right, John Harbaugh, agree right now, JPP, and the receiving corps plus Marpet. Agree with that. O-lineman and draft big free agent on our D. I think you definitely got to go with defense. You got to rebuild this defense. Corey says Orlando Magic over the Lakers. Last night it was a good game. Peter, are the owners involved in quarterback decisions? Seriously, this is their investment, their money. They very well may be involved in this decision at this point. We shall see. We shall see if they believe in Jameis Winston at the end of the year. But right now, Dirk Cutter has to make the right decision for this team. It's Jameis Winston going forward. Let's see. We're 3-7 with the quarterbacking this year, going back and forth. Put Ryan Griffin in, and let's see what he has. Well, Ryan Griffin can throw for 1,000 yards, but if the defense can't stop anybody, it really doesn't matter at this point. And guys, it's been a great show. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Sports Web post-game edition live from the Tan Talk Sports Studios. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Join me tomorrow night. It will be a special show. I'm definitely glad that I have you here to talk to you about Bucs football and about football in general. My dad passed away a year from tomorrow, passed away from cancer. So I will definitely be doing a show because this is what I love to do. I love to do it on Sunday night. I love to do it on Monday. And of course, I love to do it on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6. It's the Sports Web. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Guys, have a good night and a great Monday.